For more on the Republican response to Biden's proposal is Liz Harrington, the national spokesperson for the RNC. So Liz, when we see what Joe Biden is doing, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise. I mean, promising things to voters is something that's very easy to do. It's something that is appealing to voters, but when you get into the math, what happens afterwards, what the debt means, things such as that, what does that mean? Is it plausible for Joe Biden to be doing what he is doing?
Well, first, I'm very curious where Joe Biden is running back off to, the basement. I mean, he's not taking any questions on these radical proposals. And you're right, he's been making promises for a half a century. He's never delivered on them. And he actually used the same phrase yesterday to promise shovel-ready jobs. Well, how did that work out the last time? It was a complete disaster. We threw $1 trillion out the window for his stimulus, and it didn't create jobs. The recovery summer was a bust. They didn't create anything except more employment for government workers and more people on the food stamp rolls. That's all that they ever accomplished in the Obama-Biden years. So we know what the prescription is. It's a failure. And now he's gone even further to the left, which will be even bigger government, more control over every aspect of your life, and it will bankrupt the country in the process.
And I think you're exactly right to focus more on the ideological thing of what this means, really what's behind these price tags. Because I think if the president, for example, were to try to make it based on the price tag itself, Joe Biden, for example, could look at those multiple trillion-dollar coronavirus relief bills and say, well, you did that. Now, of course, it is different times, so I don't think that is something that necessarily should be focused on. But Joe Biden is adamant about focusing on the president's coronavirus response. That is something that he talks about every single day. And now we see that the White House is starting to hold their daily press briefings in order to kind of shape that narrative or at least push back to some of the accusations. Do you think that was the right move at the right time?
Absolutely. The president needs to be out there showing the truth about what's happening in the country. And the media is so biased. They're so bent on attacking this president at every move. They're not showing the full picture. They're drumming up hysteria and fear, especially when you look at the school situation, completely doing the bidding of Democrats and the far left teachers unions when all the science says that schools not only are safe to be reopened, but imperative for the safety of children when you look at what's happening with the schools being closed. And so all of this is to say there's one side of the story being presented in the media and the full truth is not being shown. So President Trump needs to be out there. I mean, the fact that there's not a single outstanding request from all of these governors across 50 states and PPE and ventilators and all the deployment of protective equipment that this administration provided with the mobilization of the private sector, not a single outstanding request. The great progress we've made on therapeutics. This is important information that the American people need to hear. And we really need to stop with the fear mongering from the media and far left Democrats and saying that we can't do this and that America, it's just going to be a lost year. That's not true whatsoever. We're Americans, we innovate, and we're doing a great job in fighting this virus. And the president is right to be out there setting the record straight.
I think you're right, and I think Kayleigh McEnany's been very effective in at least pushing back on some of the claims made by reporters in the briefing room. I think she's been very successful at that, but when it comes to the claims made by Joe Biden, I think it is very important for the president now to get out there and combat those claims and also turn it on Joe Biden, because for the past couple of weeks, if not months, while this coronavirus task force wasn't presenting itself, wasn't coming out with these briefings, a lot of the accusations being made were going undisputed without pushback at all. So I think it is good that we're now seeing the White House come out and start presenting its narrative as well. But I also want to move to the idea of mail-in voting, because the Wall Street Journal editorial board, they published an op-ed this week calling the mail-in disaster in New York a, quote, bad omen for November. Do you agree with this?
Well, the Democrat plans in action for voting are a complete disaster, and we've seen it in New York. Nothing says confidence in elections like a month after the election day, you still have no idea who won. That is a complete joke. Democrats are making a mockery of our elections. It's proven to be a disaster, not only in New York, but Clark County, Nevada, where they mailed ballots to inactive voters who had died or moved away, and they piled up in apartment complexes. In Fulton County, Georgia, Democrat-run county there, where the absentee ballots went missing. This is not a way a first world country conducts its elections. We need to provide more in-person voting because it's the safest, most secure, fastest way that all Americans will be confident in the result. We cannot nationalize ballot harvesting. And the good news is that Republicans, we at the RNC, are winning in court. We're protecting the laws already on the books. We're not letting Democrats like Hillary Clinton and Mark Elias change our voting laws and completely strip ballot security measures that are already in place. We're fighting them in court, and we're winning.
And I think you bring up the important point, and that's the confidence of voters coming out of the election as well. I mean, we hear those on the left all the time say that President Trump may not accept the findings of this election. Ridiculous things like that, because it just won't happen. I mean, John Roberts will swear in whoever wins that election. It's just a ridiculous argument to make, but it's the confidence of voters. Even if this is a very close race, which a lot of people are saying it will be, the American people need to have faith that it's the right result either way, no matter what it is. That's what our whole system is made up of. So I think confidence in our voting system and not these allegations of fraud that we are seeing even in the primary season. I don't think this is the type of election where we can take a gamble on a completely new system. I think you're exactly right to say that. But Liz Harrington, I appreciate you coming on the show tonight, breaking down where we stand in the 2020 race. Thank you.